juggling.
Listen, I want to first give a shout out to all of you, but I got to give a shout out to Brian here. Brian, I just want you to know the excitement I hear in your voice and what I see in your eyes is what, Russell and Dean and I have experienced for me many moons ago, decades, more than 4 decades ago, 43 years to be exact. I know for Dean about 20 years ago, and Russell, I'm not sure how many years ago, maybe 15. But it's that feeling, guys, that you have when you know you're doing something you love and it's having huge impact and it's more than you expect, right? It's that moment when you start to catch just some momentum. And it's so hard to get momentum initially in anything. And what we really try to do here this week for you is give you 5 days to give you momentum to go from I'm not sure to, hey, this is what I can do. And it's not perfect, but I also have tools that can guide me there, the tools that, we've never had. What we try to do is give you our wish list. If I could have done, decades ago, gone online, clicked and been able to do a mastermind and click a moment later and have a course and post it in a place where people could purchase it, I would have died for that. So first of all, Brian, congratulations. I really appreciate it. I love what he did, right? It's like experimenting. That's what you guys can do in the world we're in today. Even me, my events are, 12, 15,000 people. I have to go rent a stadium, literally, a basketball stadium is usually where we do it. It costs about $3.5 million to put on an event because I do such crazy production. And so we've been doing that for years, getting bigger and bigger. And, I told my team years ago, we're going to do 10, 15,000 people. And they looked at me like I was nuts because we're doing 3,000 and 4,000. And then I recently, about a year ago, said, we're going to do 25 to 50,000 person events. And I got that same look on. I said, remember what I said to you last time? And last year we did a live event for 35,000 people in Germany in a football stadium. But oh my God, it was incredibly risky, took huge amount of money to rent the entire, stadium, soccer stadium, basically is what it is. That's what they call football there. And there are a lot of moving parts. Now, with the world we're living with Zoom, you can test something like Brian did. Let me try this. Let me try another, one change in the title, guys, can change everything. But there's no replacement for building a brand. So first of all, I just want to thank you all for participating for these 5 days. I want to also thank Stacy Martino. I know she shared with you kind of like what we all did. It's like, how do you take your story? How do you take your challenges? How do you take your life and turn that into what you learned as a benefit to other people and make it your business, like Brian's doing now too. But with the tools we got, what I love about it is you can test, you can play, you can try different things and find what works because life's not a straight line. You never see a straight line in nature. If it was a straight line in nature, a human drew it because that's not how life works. It's up and down and around. But if you keep growing, it's always up, right? But you have these learning lessons and you're going to have those here. But what's so cool is your tempo for learning is accelerated so fast. I think I mentioned to you when we talked on the first day, Dean and I were chatting. And I'm a little bit older than Dean too. So I can remember, trying to go out and spend I could never afford to reach out and send out 100,000 people a message because, your message was mail and your mail was a brochure and so forth. It usually cost about $3 to $4 for each mailer. Oh my God, I don't have $300,000 to $400,000. And today all that is free. It's wild. Not only is it free, but you can do your little course with 10 or 12 people and have a course now that could go to tens of thousands of people or hundreds of thousands if you can build your brand. So what I thought I wanted to touch base just as an added value here at the end for you is, look, the tools are here and our team has done an amazing job and continue for $97 a month. And, if you're unsure, that's what I do, or you can get the package if you want to go all in. And I hope you use my Ultimate Edge program because if there's anything I've learned in my life in business, 80% of success is psychology. I've told you 20% is mechanics or strategy. I'm a strategist, but you can show someone the strategy. They won't fall through if they don't have the right psychology. And that 10-day program, Ultimate Edge, is designed to shift that psychology. And it's incredibly effective. And it's just like 30 minutes a day. You can listen while you're driving your car. You can listen while you're working out or you're cleaning your house. So you can use what I call net time, no extra time, and make this giant jump. And that psychology will get you to follow through. But real quickly today, we've been talking about brand. And if I were to ask you, what is the single most important aspect that will shape your success or failure in life and in business? Most people give all kinds of things, whether you take action or not, your mindset, all the answers are right. But the single most influential element beyond your own psychology is your identity or brand. And I use the word identity because your success or failure in life is tied to your identity for yourself. And we all start with a much more limited identity than our true capabilities. Because most of us, if we've tried something and failed, we start to develop a set of beliefs like, I'm not sure about that. I don't know what to do. But failing is part of the process. I call it learning. Whenever you see somebody who's incredibly successful in life, like off the charts, I always tell people this person is being rewarded in public for what they've practiced over and over again in private. And I know that because I work with some of the greatest athletes on the face of the earth, some of the greatest musicians, some of the greatest multi-billionaire business people. And so I've gotten to see behind the scenes, not only in my own life and my own experience as well. So you want to be able to build an identity within yourself that gets you to follow through. And you got to build a brand in the real world that makes people want to do business with you. So let me clarify. What do I mean when I say identity? What I mean is we all have a belief about who we are. We might have beliefs of what we're capable of, but then there's who we are right now. And it's kind of like, we all have goals. You ever done this? You're at a big goal and you say, I'm going to go destroy it. I'm going to go change the world. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to make $1 million, whatever it was. And you're, I'm going to go do this. And then some part of your brain goes, who are you kidding? Right? Because you're one part of your mind, your conscious mind saying one thing, your unconscious saying another. And one of the things you're going to learn as you go through our programs together is how to condition your conscious mind till it goes deep in your unconscious to where your brain doesn't question. Because when something gets in your unconscious mind, it just happens. It's like your brain is like a servo mechanism, like a missile. In the old days, if you pointed a missile at something and your angle missed, you missed the target. But today, they have a servo mechanism, just like your brain. And what that does is if the target moves, it moves with the target and follows it till it hits it. Your brain works that way when you learn how to condition it. And the thing that conditions your brain the most is your identity, your definition for yourself. We all have a definition. I'm a winner, I'm a loser. I'm a person of tremendous discipline, I have zero discipline. It's not just a discussion, it affects everything. It affects what you think about, what you're willing to try, what you appreciate, what risks you'll take, how much you'll succeed or how much you'll fail. And so think of your identity as your comfort zone. And if you and I want to take advantage of things you've learned here, the only reason you won't is some part of you's like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I'm different. I don't know if I can pull it off. All those are just limited identities. And our beliefs create and our beliefs destroy. And you got to become aware of the beliefs that destroy and just erase them. And then, like, that's bullshit. Erase, erase, erase. Here's the truth. Here's the truth. Here's the truth. That's what I did with myself and still do. But that's what I did with myself for the first 10 years, basically, what I was doing until I trained my nervous system and brain to go, this is who you are and this is what you're going to find a way to do. You may not know how to do it, but you're going to find the way because you're going to keep moving forward. You're going to keep learning. It's not failure. Learn, 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 grow, adapt, and you're going to get where you want to go. And I got way beyond where I wanted to go because I just kept on that trajectory of movement. But I had to shift this identity from, oh man, you don't know what to do. You know what? You've never done this before. No one in your family's ever succeeded. You guys have no money. We have no money for food. What the hell are you doing having these dreams? But fortunately, I can turn those dreams into action by converting this identity. Anything you attach the words I am to with enough intensity and enough consistency, you will become. And I remember I shared sometimes with people about, working as a janitor in these two banks in a place called San Marino, California. It's actually an upscale area. And I lived in this place called Azusa, California, east of LA, in kind of the smog environment. And I would take these buses, because I was still in high school, after school, to go about 45 minutes to an hour and 15, depending on the day. And I would take a series of buses to get to these banks. I'd go there, clean in the middle of the night from basically 11 o'clock at night till about 2:30 in the morning. And then I'd come home, get on the buses and make my way home and get up on 2 or 3 hours sleep and go to school. And I can remember this one day when I cleaned up all these, these two banks, and I went out and I sat at the bus stop forever, 2:30, 3:30. I'm starting to get worried. And this man pulls over and goes, dude, don't you know there's a bus strike? I'm like, what? And that day shaped my identity, because your identity is shaped by getting yourself to do things. If you've ever been to one of my seminars, I have people break wood karate style, or have them, cross the fire, or my small leadership groups, we do skydiving, or we've gone shark diving, in a cage with great whites coming at you. Sounds crazy. But when you make yourself do something that's beyond what you think you're capable of, you cross the fire, you break the wood, whatever, your brain goes, if I can do this, what else can I get myself to do? And on that day, I had no way home. And so I ran, no bullshit. I'd never run 3 miles. I had a little gut on me. And I ran 13 and a half miles. I know exactly the route I did it, but the whole way I did it was with just pure will. I was like, every day and every way I'm getting stronger and stronger every day. And I was like programming mind. I will not be denied. I will not stop. And I would just shout this over and over. I literally trained my nervous system for hour after hour after hour to do something that my brain thought would be totally impossible. And that same drive, and quite honestly, it started with a little anger initially, like, can't believe I have to do this. I can't believe my mom shoved my father out and me out. And then the anger disappeared and it just became pure drive and hunger and will and commitment. That identity is still with me today. And I built a kind of an incantation for myself before I would go to get on stage in my little tiny groups back then, which, I had to spend a fortune to try to market, no target marketing in those days, rent the hotel, do all this stuff and then show up and find 7 people there, like I shared with you the first day here when there's supposed to be 500, but I'm still going to give my all. That's how I built the identity, just deliver it all. But that set of experiences trained me. Because think of it this way, if you don't train your brain for your identity, you're going to accept whatever life has given you. It's kind of like, it's like a thermostat. If I set the thermostat in the room at 68 degrees, and 68 degrees represents your identity, your comfort zone. It's not your goal. It's not who you want to be. It's what you're used to. And so 68 degrees could be a metaphor for how much money you're used to earning. You want to make, $1 million or 10,000 a month or whatever the number is, but you're making, 50,000 a year or 4,500 a month or whatever it is. And that's what you're used to. There's what you want and then there's what you're used to, your identity. And here's what I'll tell you. The strongest force in the human personality is the need to stay consistent with how you define yourself. I'm going to say that again. It's worth jotting down. It's a lot of words, but if you're willing to, the strongest force in the human personality, the strongest force in your personality, in mine, strongest force in human personality is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves, to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. Now, what the hell does that mean? It means if you think you're a winner, you will find the way to win. If you think you're a loser, you'll find the way to lose unless you shift that identity. That's why people can go to seminars or courses, and I always start with, we're going to get you to do things that break up your identity. This week, Russell, when we were talking, and Dean and I, we're all saying, we got to get people this week. If we're going to add real value, it's beyond what we're teaching them. We got to get them to do some uncomfortable things. And I know many of you did. I saw what you did on Facebook, and I really honor you because what seems impossible, once you do it, it's not that hard. It's mostly in our head. It's our fear. It's our uncertainty. And so the bottom line is, if you want to have a strong result, you got to up your identity. That's everything I do with people. If your identity, for example, if you hear someone say, I stopped smoking for 3 days, and I always say to them, why, or drinking or whatever, I'll say, why are you counting? Because you want to know how many days you are so you can tell people how long you lasted this time? I say, there's a big difference between somebody who's trying to stop smoking and somebody who actually does. The difference is identity. If you stop smoking, I don't know, can't see you all. I see some of you there on Zoom. How many of you used to smoke? Any of you on Zoom out there I could see? And then stopped? Yeah, a few of you there. That's cool. Well, listen, if you stop smoking and somebody offers you a cigarette, you don't say, they say, would you like a cigarette? You don't say, what brand is it? You go, no, I'm not a smoker. I'm not one of those. When your identity changes, your behavior changes permanently. Your identity changes, your emotions change permanently. And what will change your identity is doing things you've never done before, over and over. They're uncomfortable, and then you're going to succeed. See, you look at Brian here. Brian has already started to shift his identity. You could see it when he was talking. It's like, oh, yeah, I can see this. Like, I'm starting to see what's really real. I didn't know it was even going to work. And holy shit, I got all these sales and all this is happening. And he's at the beginning of his journey. And the journey goes like this, nothing, boom, boom, boom. Right? If you understand compounding, there's compounding of who you reach. There's compounding of your skills, just like there's compounding of finance. If you know finance, if you try and play golf and you say, I'm going to play 10 cents a hole and double it, 10 cents the first hole, 20 cents second hole, 40 cents, 80 cents, $1.60, 320 at 6 holes. There's only 18 holes. You think, it might cost $15. But at the end, it's $13,000 because the last 3 holes go straight up. And that's what it's like in business and in life. But you got to build the identity that gets you to go through it. And so I've given you a tool as part of this to make that happen. But the easiest way, you don't need me, is push yourself to do things and don't be afraid of the failure. Be afraid, but do it anyway. It's like I said to you in the first day, people told me, oh man, I don't feel like this. I don't feel like it 90% of the time. I just make myself do it. It's my habit to do it. And then I feel great. There are lots of days that I can't, my back hurts, my throat hurts, and I don't even know what city I'm in. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? But I know what I'm here to serve, and I put myself on the line and it comes to life. And that is my identity, that I always deliver. That's pretty good identity to have, because if you have an identity like that with yourself and it's sincere and it's real and you live it, you'll build a brand. Because brands are not built by advertising today. Brands are built by results. Robbins equals results. I get results. I've done it for decades. I'm going to over deliver. I'm going to add more value than they could ever imagine. The number one phrase that people say come out of seminars, and if you're one of the people in my seminars, I get stopped every day of my life, is you changed my life. I always correct them, go, I didn't do it. I'm glad I helped. You did it. You made the decisions. You pushed through, but I'm so glad I helped. But that's the number one phrase I hear a dozen times a day anywhere I go in the world. Is because I've been doing this for 43 years, over delivering. You build a brand and this game is over. People reach behind everything else to get to that brand. People push to get to that brand. And the way you build it first is got to build your own identity. What is it you do better than anybody else? Or what are you going to do better than anybody else? Is it the amount you're going to give? Is it the precision you're going to do? Is it you're going to do something that saves them money? Is it something that's going to save them pain? What do you have passion for that you know you can deliver? Or what is someone else doing that you can take what they learn and take it through this vehicle and help them get a message out and be their partner and profit and an impact? So like that, by the way, going back to that thermostat metaphor, if we set it for 68 degrees and that's your comfort zone financially, what you're used to, you want more, but it's what you're used to. It's your identity. If that's how much intimacy you're used to in a loving relationship, or that's how close you feel to your creator by whatever definition you have of your creator, or that's how strong you feel physically, you want to be stronger, you want to be more fit, but this is your comfort zone. It rarely changes without some form of massive action and discomfort. It's the only way it's going to change. And by the way, once it changes, the game can change completely. But watch this. Have you ever had a certain comfort zone and then something happens and it's not as good as you think it should be? Like your life physically, you feel, you hit a threshold. I can't spend another day in these fat clothes, right? Or I can't take another day like this in this relationship. I can't take another day struggling financially. And finally, one day you go, it's over. I'm changing this business, my life, my relationship, my job, whatever. How many of you have done this? Those I can see. How many have had a day when you finally hit a threshold and said no more and you effing changed and never went back? Let me see your hands. I'm seeing tons of you. And those on Facebook, maybe you can type it in so we can see. So most of us have had that experience. That's a day when your thermostat, you were so below your comfort zone that the heaters kicked on. The thermostat said, hey, you got down here to 62 degrees. You're not a 62 degree, you're a 68 degree. And you feel this drive, discomfort to make things better. And you fight, and you get back to where you think you belong. But you know what most people don't know? It happens on the other side too. If you get back to where you want to be, or you're doing good and you start doing better and you push yourself and you take action and you break through and you grow and you grow and you grow and you grow. And pretty soon you've grown up to 99 degrees. And then your brain goes, hey, who the hell do you think you are? You're a 68 degree. Or what are you doing up here at 99? Get your butt back there. And you know what happens? You lose your drive. Now you think about it instead of doing it. You tell yourself you'll do it later. If you're in sales, you go shopping instead of selling, right? You made all this money and now it crunches back down. It's almost like the air conditioners kick on to bring you back to where you think you deserve to be subconsciously, 68 degrees. Or if the heaters aren't enough, the air conditioners kick on, you start to sabotage. Who here has ever gotten on the verge of what you really want to do in your business or your finances or relationship, and then you screwed it up? You said something, you did something. After you said you did, I go, why'd I do that? Who's done this before? Raise your hand so I can see if you've done it before. Quite a few of you. And some of you are not raising your hand. You probably lie about other things too. Come on. We've all done it. Because identity plays that strong a role. And identity, here's what you want to write down, one word or two words. Identity influences. Identity influences everything. It influences what you think, the way you feel, what you're willing to do or not do. It shapes it all. So if you're not doing it, it's time to expand your identity. And this 5 days, what we thought is we could give you our insights of what we've lived and the insights of some of the people that we know. And we could show you how to do it and give you the tool that in 5 days, you could get enough momentum. Right? Momentum is like it takes more energy for a rocket to get out of the Earth's atmosphere than once it's out, it takes very little energy to go outside the solar system because it's that initial momentum. Momentum is what changes a basketball game. One returns winning and somebody does something and momentum changes and the game changes. My life is about creating momentum for people because you have all the power in you. You just need momentum to discover your higher identity, not the one you've gotten used to. Make sense? And so what you got to do is take actions that continue to make you uncomfortable until you get result. And pretty soon your brain goes, no, my identity's not 68 degrees, it's 99 degrees. And then it's 105. And before you know it, you go 1,000 degrees. I didn't even know 1,000 degrees even existed. The life I have the privilege to live today, the life I know Russell does, he's such a good man. I'm sure you can feel who he is. And the life that Dean has in their life, our lives are the result of not just self-education, educating ourselves, but then finding answers for ourselves and saying, man, if I went through this, there's millions of other people. How do we help them? How do I take the pain I've been through and avoid other people having to suffer? How can I do that? Oh my God, and if I can do that in a structural way, I can do it full time. I can make it my business. I can prosper for my family and for my philanthropy while I'm making a difference every day of my life. So that's what this game is about. Build an identity, and if you have it within yourself, you will then behave in a way that'll build a brand people can count on, a brand that over-delivers. And by the way, you guys can test prices on this. Some of you are charging way more than I do. And I got much longer and more intensive programs. So either you're charging too much or I'm charging too little, but that's for you to figure out. But the cool thing is you can figure all this out. But I will tell you this, there's no replacement for adding value. There's no replacement for doing more for others than anybody else is in your category. And if you keep pursuing giving, you're not going to have to worry about receiving. And by the way, just a reminder, think of it in business. Brand is everything. People will do whatever it takes to get to a brand. When you're a brand as an entertainer, people want to watch. When you're a brand as a teacher, people want to learn from you. This is the opportunity of your lifetime to really build that. And, it might take longer than you think, but I can promise you it'll be a lot less than any other time in human history. Because if you can hit the button of added value, mass number of people through social media will start talking about it. And pretty soon, you're going to have an amazing opportunity. And also, it's the cheapest place to ever do it before. I mean, you can do this all online. It's mind-boggling even to me. I mean, our last event, Dean helped me with it, did the marketing of it together with our team, and we had over 35,000 people attend a 4-day UPW. And I told my team before, 15,000 has been our biggest. Well, we're already overwhelmed it. We didn't have to buy a stadium. So COVID could be an opportunity. Crisis, my friends, always calls us to grow. Crisis calls us to create. Crisis calls us to think differently. Crisis calls us to solve problems never solved. Crisis calls us to lead and not follow and just sit and hope. And I know you're not one of those people, you wouldn't participate here, but I hope you'll go to the next step, whatever that is for you to take advantage and go forward. But again, just a reminder of the power of brand. Let me give you a little test. So if I said to you, I want you to write it down, wherever you are, just write it down so you don't just think it in your head. Think of a powerful brand for fast foods, a big fast food food company, the first one you think of, right? A large fast food company. And then think secondly of the first potato. A search engine, the first search engine you think of. Jot them down. What's a large fast food company, burger, whatever you get? Real fast. There would be is either Burger King, Wendy's, or Taco Bell. Those are the three that follow in most cases. But pretty amazing that when somebody thinks of a category, they think of it. What's the potato chip company you thought of? Throw it up on the screen. Let's see if you picked the same one. And we got people from all over the world on here, not just the US. How many think Lay's potato chip? Raise your hand. Look at this. About 75% of the people I'm seeing here on Zoom. And the second choices there are what? Way down on the bottom are Ruffles and Kettle Chips. But their brand percentage is tiny, less than 5 or 10%. And this one's, most of you can predict on this one, search engine. How many of you pick Bing? I'm not a single person is raising their hand on the group that I'm looking at on Bing. It's Google, baby. In fact, Google's turned into a verb. Google it. How do you think Yahoo feels about that when Yahoo was the dominant people in search, but they didn't keep innovating? And the Google boys did. And they dominate the marketplace. More than 97% of the people when they search go to Google. Is that a slight advantage? So I'm telling you, you can build it, but what's it going to take? Let me give 5 quick things. Jot them down real fast because I got to keep my time up here. I think I've gone over already. So number 1, if you're going to experience the power of being a brand, number 1 thing you got to do is just understand the true power of identity or brand to affect your life, because your brand is the identity people have for you. You got to have a strong enough identity within yourself to make it happen. So understand the true power of your identity or brand and know that it affects everything. It affects the way you think, feel, and interact, but it also affects the way your customers or potential customers think and feel. And if you get a strong enough brand, people see themselves as your client, not your customer. Customers go away, clients stay. Second, if you're going to build a brand, you need to identify and articulate your competitive advantage. So whenever I talk to people in business, I'll say to them, I'll usually do it spontaneously when they're not ready. I say, tell me what your company is. Tell me what you do. And they tell me. And then I say to them always the same question. Why should I buy from you versus someone else in your industry? How do you think most people answer? They pull back for a second. They go, well, we really give great service. And I'll look at them and say, I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm trying to be your friend. But everybody says they give good service. That is not a unique situation. If you don't give good service today, you're out of business. So you got to practice. And if we have time right now, I know you guys have got to go on time, but I'd ask you when we finish this workshop today, right now, in the next few minutes, I really ask you to stop and just, first of all, think about how important it would be to build a brand. And what if it took you a year or 2 or 3 to build a brand, but then people are coming to you. You're not going after them. And how do you build a brand? Create products and service that add so much value that the word gets out. In our marketplace, just like on Amazon, there'll be a recommendation engine because people who buy often from one person, they go, look, Brian, everybody's buying from Brian. Well, it'll recommend Brian, right? It'll reinforce his brand. And same thing with yourself. You'll say, I like this. You'll give ratings to things. But that's true of everything in our lives today, from social media on down. But then you got to practice just writing it out. Write out a paragraph. Why should somebody buy from you versus someone else? What do you uniquely bring to the table? What unique gifts? What unique caring? What do you do better than anybody else? What do you guarantee different? Why? If you can't answer why I should buy from you versus someone else, they're not going to buy from you. They're going to buy from someone else who can articulate it better. So identify what people need. If remember last time we were together, I said, know who your ideal client is. Who's the client who will love your product or service? Who's the one who will appreciate it? Who's the client who'll come back and buy more often? Who's the client that'll refer people? And then what do they really need that I can deliver? And again, you got to build your own identity by pushing yourself, doing different things. That's also, by the way, why I recommend you all, I don't care man or woman, you need something you do every day to put yourself in that strong physical state. My jump in my cold water, a good sprint or run or hard walk, lifting some weights even for 10 minutes. So you train your body and mind to push through limitations. That'll help you build that identity that means I'm going to find the way to succeed, and that'll eventually build your brand as well. But write it, articulate it, answer the question, why should I do business with you versus someone else? And then practice it. That's the third piece here. You got to really practice communicating it congruently. That means in a way where people feel it and they know it's true. They know it's not bullshit. They know it's not hype. And you want to practice within yourself until you own it. Like you really think of all the ways you can help. So when you say what you're doing, it's not like, Jim Rohn used to say to me, Tony, words are like stick pins. You can take a stick pin and I can throw it at you, but you barely feel it. But if I take a stick pin and I wire to the back of it a giant iron bar called human emotion, I can throw that stick in right through your heart. Right? And so that's what you got to do. You got to practice feeling, thinking, owning this, and then practice communicating with people. And as you do that over and over again, then you'll be able to start to do it another way on video, wherever else you want. Fourth step, you got to live it. You got to walk your talk, right? It's kind of like, remember I told you the story about Michael Glickman, the guy that was struggling, in the real estate business. And then all of a sudden, he said his whole life was about, enhancing his community, taking care of the community, selling in. And then he's got little or no money and he goes and he gets private, rental trucks to take away their trash to the dump. I mean, he lived it. It built him a brand overnight. right? Walk your talk. There is nothing that you can do to promote your identity that's going to be anywhere near as valuable as the people seeing you living it and you walking it, living it congruently. And then the last step, number 5, you got to market it. And that's what we try to show you how to help you to do this here. We got to create an environment where it's automatically people are coming to look at it, but you got to look at every way to market it, every possible way, every aspect from social media to the things that you can do personally to web, all the things that you can do to give people an experience. And my recommendation would be for some of you to have a little mini course that's free, because how I built my career and my brand was giving people experiences, doing free guest events. They were expensive back then. Today, you can do them online. It's crazy. But back then, it cost a fortune to put on a guest event. You don't know what you were going to get as a result of it. But today, you could do a little mini course, a free course, and so people get a taste of it, so there's no risk. The one recommendation to make your brand, besides results, take away the risk. If you can do risk reversal, if you could even say, listen, if you go through my course and it isn't worth it, I'll pay you $100. Some people go, I couldn't do that, I go broke. You know what? If you're really delivering, you might have 1 or 2 idiots or people just being mean or crazy or didn't pay attention who might take advantage, but because you're so certain, it'll build your brand. And people will trust you to give you taste you, have an experience of you. If they get an experience of you and you deliver, they're going to want more. That's how it works. Our whole life at this stage, everybody has got to be self-educated, because standard education produces standard results, which is most people suffering. And all of us in this virtual room around the world have developed through our pain and problems solutions that we can help save other people a lot of pain and problems through. It's like I always said, I'm always looking to compress decades into days. So those are the 5 keys. And all I want to say to you is, because I've gone over my time again, is that don't let this opportunity pass. And I don't just mean the economics of, joining us in some way. Don't let the opportunity to dig into you and find there's some magic there. There's something there of value that you can then share with other people, and then find new ways to make it better and better until you refine something that can help people anywhere in the world while you're sleeping. And then you can start earning doing it too. And the more you add that value, the more value you add, the more people you touch, the more then it can grow, and it can get to the point where it places what you do currently or can dwarf what you do currently. But you have to build it. And there's no instant turn on the lights, it happens. That's total BS. I am a 43-year overnight success. I'm 60, but 43 years I've been doing this since I'm 17, and I've learned so much. And so that's what we've tried to pour into you here in the shortest time possible for you. And that didn't cost you anything. And now if you want to continue, you can make a small investment in yourself, but I think you find it to be huge. And I'll tell you how powerful identity is with a final little story. The other day, I saw somebody, and it triggered my memory about this. And so I thought, I want to share this with you guys when I talk to you today. Years ago, I met a woman named Marva Collins. She was a Chicago school teacher. And this was in the early 90s. And she's a badass lady. I mean, tough as nails lady. And she got her teaching license, and she went to public school there in Chicago in kind of a very, very tough environment. And she was on fire, like most young teachers are, to say, I'm going to turn these kids' lives around. I'm going to love on them so much. I'm going to make them grow. They're going to be incredible. And she really believed her mother raised her with challenge. She's an African-American woman. She grew up in an age in which, racism was a real challenge. We didn't have the president of the United States. Wouldn't be considered to be president twice in a row, much less once, like, you just did with Obama. It was a different time. And so her mother taught her, don't be a victim. You be a victim and you'll be a victim the rest of your life. She said, there are going to be people unjust and unfair out there, but you can beat it if you keep growing. If you keep growing, if you keep doing things that add value, that produce results, sooner or later, people respect you and love you. And isn't that been the formula for anyone who's been successful, from any color, any background, or any gender, from Oprah to the greatest entertainers, business people? It's the common denominator. It's the American way. It's the one gift that we have in this country. And now it's spread to Western society all over the world where there's freedom. So, great lady. And so I meet her, have a conversation. I'm hearing that she's getting amazing results with these kids, second graders. And let me tell you what started out. She goes to her first class, and she comes in before the class. She comes into the teacher's lounge. She told me the story. She said her first day at work, she's on fire. She's going to help these kids. Probably like a lot of you, right? You can't wait to build your course. I'm on fire. I want to help people. You might have a little hesitancy. She had a little hesitancy, but her hesitancy went away when she made it the teacher's lounge. Because in the teacher's lounge, she's talking about, oh my God, I can't wait. I'm going to turn these kids' lives around. And some of the other teachers, and they're good people, don't get me wrong, but they were frustrated. So they'd like, calm down a little bit. These aren't regular kids. And they went through and started giving all the labels. They got learning disabilities. They got behavioral disabilities like you've never seen in your life. And this one woman described this one kid went in the bathroom in their pants in the second grade and then rubbed it all over the walls and gave the finger to her, the teacher. And she listened to all this, and instead of being pulled back, something inside of her pushed forward. And I think it was really because she wanted to serve these kids so much. And I really believe, my friends, that no matter where you're starting, the one thing that's made me successful, I know it's true for Dean and Russell, is we care. We want someone's life to change. If it's just about us, we wouldn't work so hard. We wouldn't need to at this stage of our life at all. But she really, if you met this woman, Marvin, she's now passed away. I look in her eyes. She just told me this story. She told me, I got so angry at these teachers. She goes, that's not a problem with the students. That's a problem with the teaching method. And she said, all of them are like, you just better lower your standards, woman. You're just going to be frustrated. And she got really angry, and she decided, true story, to teach second graders Shakespeare and Tolstoy. she said, I'm going to challenge these children. They're going to discover who they are and what they're capable of. And it's going to shift what? Their identity, their internal brand about who they are. Because right now they think they have no future. Society says they have no future. The teachers echo that they have no future because they're so badly behaved and they're not paying attention and all these things. She said, I'm not going to teach them that. I'm going to teach them what they're capable of. And how does she change their identity? By getting them to do things that they didn't think they could do. And so I go to interview her. By the time I interviewed her, she had her own school, preparatory school that she started because she was done with the public school. But in the public school, she turned these kids completely around. And I'll tell you how I know it really worked. It wasn't just a story I read about. So I'm with Marva. I go to one of her classrooms and I say, can I meet some of the students? And I go to this little first grade class, and there's all kinds of kids there. They're all, bouncing around, and they're all having a great time. They're playful and fun. And so she introduces me, and I just said, well, do you mind if I ask you guys a few questions? I asked Marva, it's okay. And she said, yeah. So I said, who'd like to volunteer? And a bunch of hands went up. And there's this little African-American boy, and he was really tiny. And he stood up. It was actually a kindergartner. And he stood up and he said, I said, what's your name? And he said, my name is Talmadge E. Griffin. I am 4 years old, about to be 5. And he said, what would you like to know? And he did it with such presence. I was like, this is amazing. And I said, well, Talmadge, I'd like to know, what are you learning these days? He said, I'm learning many subjects. What would you like to know? I said, well, have you read any books recently? He said, several. And I said, well, could you name one? He said, of course. The latest book I just finished reading was Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. He's 4 years old, about to be 5. And so I thought for a moment, and I thought, you can teach a kid to rehearse something, to tell him what to say and regurgitate. So let me ask him a different angle. So I said, well, can you tell me about that book? And I thought he'd say it's about a story about a guy named Lenny and George or something, He goes, the main protagonist is, and so I still thought, well, maybe he's been trained to who's the protagonist? You can train anybody to teach anything, if you really believe in it, but I wanted to go deeper. So I said to him, what did you learn from reading that book? And he paused for a long time, felt like forever. It was probably 30 seconds. I said, what did you learn? And he says, I'm evaluating. I said, okay. And he said, I noticed in that story that only adults judged other people by the color of the skin. None of the children did that. I said, wow. And he said, so I think what I learned from that is I know someday I will be an adult, but I will never forget the lessons of a child. 4 years old. And then I got a little teary-eyed. I'm an emotional guy. I can remember it like it was yesterday. It's just so beautiful to see this little boy owning himself. And he looked at me and said, Mr. Robbins, he said, it's okay. I'm very happy that I'm a bright child. And then I asked him the last question. And I think this is the message for you and for me from a 4-year-old. I said, Talmadge, what's the most important lesson that you've learned, I should say, from Mrs. Collins? Again, he thought for a long time, and he said, I think the most important lesson is that people may have expectations. Society may predict how you're going to turn out, but only I will determine my destiny. And everybody in the class clapped. And I cried just grace tears to see this little boy just about to turn 5, who already understands that life is whatever we make of it. That we can sit here and live in our fear, and we can complain, and we can talk about what everybody else is doing, or COVID, or race relations, or whatever, or we can be part of the solution. We can determine what our destiny will be. And we only do it by massive action, and we only do it by doing things that are uncomfortable. But as we do that more and more, and we get results, our identity grows and grows, and then we get greater results. And then you have this thing called momentum, and then you have something called a brand, and then you have something called the most meaningful life you can imagine. So from Talma G. Griffin to you, remember, society may predict, but only you will determine your destiny, and you'll determine it by the decisions that you make. And on that note, there's a young man who I've been watching on Facebook who's touched my heart as much here. And he's played full out the entire time. And I'm looking for my notes to where the young man's name is here. Here it is. His name is Ethan Harris. And Ethan, I just want you to know, I've been watching you. I am blown away. I think he's like 7 or 8 years old. I got to find out how old he really is. But you remind me of this young man. And so I want you to know, I know we've given away my Fiji resort as a gift, or if they haven't, they're going to right now. But I want to do a special gift for you. I want to invite you to come to the World Summit here in Florida, see this unbelievable stadium studio that we built, and participate with Dean and I. And then Dean and I will give you a little coaching on your business as well as a little side benefit. But we're going to fly you here and make you our guest. And of course, I know you're young enough, you can bring your parents as well. And we'd really like to have you, and you're going to be our guest. So I want to give that a call out. And if Dean and your team can take over and make sure we reach out to him and he knows we're here to take care of him and his family, we'll make that happen. With that, guys, thank you for a beautiful week. Please, for your benefit, take action. You just keep doing this thing for $97 a month and build your business, or get yourself the package. Or if you're not going to do it with something else, do something today. If anything I've learned in my life, don't ever leave the moment of making a decision without doing something that commits you to follow through. I've done that most of my life. I grab opportunity by the hair when I didn't have the time, the money, the effort, or the possibility, but it's always been a reward. We don't get rewarded in life for giving up. We get rewarded in life for investing in ourselves and growing. I think I told some of you when I did this book, Money Master the Game. It's become the #1 best-selling book of this century. It's only 20 years old, but the last 20 years, #1 best-selling financial book of the century. And I interviewed all these brilliant people, and I interviewed Warren Buffett. And I said, Warren, tell me, what's the best investment you've ever made? I was waiting because I'd done my homework. I knew which company it was, I thought. And he laughed and smiled and looked at me and goes, it's what you do. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, I invested in Dale Carnegie. He said, I invested in myself. I always tell people the single most important investment is investing in your own skills, your own ability, your own talent, because that's something you're in control of, not these investments out there. If you start with this and you build those abilities, everything else just keeps growing. He said, Tony, I wouldn't be who I am if I hadn't learned how to communicate, how to persuade, how to influence. So, but what influences most? Identity. It influences people before you open your mouth, and you can begin to build that now. So thanks for your time. Thanks for going forth these last 5 days. And remember, society predicts, you determine your destiny. God bless.
Tony Robbins, thank you, brother. You had me in tears and everybody else. Here's the cool part, Tony, you don't have to, you just wait on the couch there. I don't know if you saw this, guys. Real quick, can we play that video from Ethan?
Oh, I'm wonderful.
Hi, guys. My name's Ethan Harris, and I'm building this business called Tablet Down, Muscles Up. It teaches kids to focus on their brain muscle, social muscle, and body muscle. It also teaches kids to get their minds off electronics and focus on more active stuff. After listening to Tony, Dean, and Russell, it really changed my beliefs. Now, after listening to them, regardless the age, any age, you can have a business. Say you have a talent for, like, singing. You could use that voice of, like, singing to create a business. And you could use that to teach people how to sing. And you make money. You need to share it with the world so people notice you, you get famous. And you need passion in those talents. A lot of passion. A lot of passion. like I put passion into my cooking and exercising.
That's so awesome. Ethan, we love you. We look forward to meeting you here, brother, with your parents. We'll take great care of you. We're going to have a great time together.
Guys, if that whole last thing, I got teary over Ethan. I mean, how amazing is it to look through the eyes of what some might call a naive 9-year-old? But is it really naive? Don't you wish some of us could have that? Gina, I see you guys shaking your head. Don't you wish we could go back and forget that the world told us no too many times? Forget that imposter that lives inside of us has grown up, that self-doubt that says it's not time, you're not good enough. How cool is it to be naive sometimes and just see it for what it is, right? He just sees it for what it is. He really touched my heart. We had so many incredible videos and Ethan, congratulations. We did create something special. We're going to fly your parents, like Tony said, and you down to the World Summit. It's October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We're going to fly you down, get to hang out with Tony and I, and probably going to bring you on the set with tens of thousands of people, or over 10,000 people live. So congratulations, Ethan. Thanks for inspiring us, and